Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today we are joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart, and eventually, possibly, my best friend Matthew Thomas, who is stuck in traffic. And today we are talking about power exchanges. You know, there's a Oscar Wilde quote that I enjoy, and it says, I'm sure you've heard this before. Everything in the world is about sex, except sex. Sex is about power.
I love that quote.
While you're wrapping your hungry little holes around that, let's get started. Himeros Live is brought to you by Himeros.tv. Created by Davey Wavey, Himeros.tv is a porn site evolved. With hundreds of videos, Himeros.tv is the world's largest collection of authentic man-on-man action and real sexual ecstasy. It's like porn that's good for you. Best of all, the videos are co-created with a team of gay sex experts, so you can have the best gay sex of your life. Join the gay porn revolution and save 20% at himeros.tv/pod. Himeros.tv. It's like porn, but better. I still struggle with every iteration of this. It's because porn can be good for you too. Regular porn can be good for you. It's all in how you use it. But this porn, Himeros.tv, is especially good for you. And may tweak that line in future podcasts. FYI.
Well, I mean, you talk about being a revolution, you know.
I do talk about that. In
revolutionary,
fact. Yeah. Finn, how are you?
I'm great. Yeah.
You're great. You're great.
I'm great. Yeah. I am really good today. I'm worn out. It's been kind of a long week.
Usually when people say, I'm great.
Tension
in their voice. They're not.
They start crying. You really want to know?
We do want to know.
Well, okay. So I've had, my partner's gone. So I booked my extra clients this week just to, as I needed to. And I've just been like in my office with people and carrying a lot. And it's been a lot of intense sessions. So I'm just like holding a lot of stuff for people. And
you're making that money.
I am. This week is wonderful. Also, like the Lavender Spirit is really cool, again, to be in the cathedral and on panel with the priest and the yoga teacher. And my own arc of like loneliness and horniness. And like, I think I realized this week, every time he's gone, every time he leaves, I have this like disconnection anxiety, and I've never really paid attention to that before. We've been talking so much about like what happens for you when you go to the apps, and all these emotions that are underlying it. And it just kind of dawned on me this week, because I went into like a little bit of a porn tunnel on like the first day that I had some recharging time that could have been. I wanted to actually do a bunch of stuff for myself. I totally went down a porn tunnel. And
how did you feel?
Well, honestly, I felt a little hungover the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I told you I messed around with a friend. I did. I connected with my boyfriend about that. Sent him a video. It was fun to connect with him, and we're really working on communication and boundaries, and really working through the stuff that comes up. So that was a really positive aspect of it. But I just noticed, every time he leaves, I have this whole like anxiety that comes up in the shape of like graspiness, so. That was my version of it. And even though we talk about, I think it's important to say that, because every week when we talk about apps, I'm like, well, I don't use the apps, and I don't. But like, here's this version of me having that same existential thing, And
if you didn't have Sam, like, do you think you'd be really challenged by that situation? Like,
I don't know. Because after I kind of move through, I'm getting back in my center. Like I've had like a couple of days. I feel like I've done some kick-ass work with my clients, and that always makes me feel really good about myself, and some good workouts. And so there's a lot of reasons why I feel back in my own sphere. But for a day, it was just like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, you would probably, it's funny. You sound like a dog that has like separation anxiety, and like his owner leaves, and he just sits at home and goes like,
oh my God, I'll just look up porn. Yeah. And I, to be clear, like I don't often look at porn. I've mentioned that a lot. It's rare that I do. And, because often I really enjoy being in my own body and like my mirror practice and all that kind of stuff. I couldn't even access that part of myself that day. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. I wonder though, if Sam wasn't in your life, if you would fill that connection void in other ways, like through being involved in different groups or kind of, because you can get that connection in other ways than a boyfriend. And I wonder I also think about with myself, I've been leaning into that stuff, like spending more time with friends, going out to dinner more. And I really enjoy that connection. Also, part of me though is like, are you just making yourself busy so you don't feel that fundamental loneliness? Like,
Right.
is this really bringing you the connection that you crave? I think it is. Is it really bringing you that, or is it just kind of a way for you to avoid like being alone with your thoughts?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I don't know. I feel like community is really important, right? We live in this
Yeah.
way that, but it's a mindset. Like, I have a friend that's been like, hey, let's cuddle. Hey, let's cuddle. And I've wanted to cuddle with him. And I'm like, oh my God, I could have totally cuddled with him. And that would have been really awesome. And I think that felt like, yes. But even like this morning, like walking home from the gym and I walked by this lady and it's like an Asian woman with children, and my immediate reaction to walk by people, is like, oh, I don't really. She's a woman. She's probably straight. She's a mom. I don't know much about Asia. Like all these like assumptions that we put out there on people, and then I'm just like, fuck, this is my community. And so I like looked her in the eyes and smiled at her, and like her little girl smiled at me, and I was like, okay, so I have to like connect with people, and
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Have you been watching any Apple TV Plus?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, so you're better off watching that than porn. I've made a recommendation to Finn to watch the morning show and then also see. This is not sponsored. I just really enjoy both of the series that came out. That I think they came out November 1st, or I don't know. Apple TV Plus is like a new Netflix, Hulu subscription service, and part of me that just triggered my Siri. Part of me really wanted to be like super disappointed because I know they had like high budgets and it's Apple, so I figured it was going to be very family friendly programming and like not edgy. They're both really edgy, and I think they're both really interesting. And they both actually got like fairly poor reviews from critics, but audiences have both really responded to them. What I like about the morning show is it's kind of based on the Today Show and what happened with Matt Lauer and the sexual harassment and all the allegations that came out of that. What I enjoy about it is that it takes a deep dive into the Me Too movement in a way that feels very nuanced and complex. Like Steve Carell, who plays the Matt Lauer character, isn't just this villain. Like and when you hear the women that he that he assaulted or that he harassed share their stories, they say things like, well, at first like he's this movie star or he's this celebrity, and I was like really flattered that he was paying attention to me. Like I felt like he saw me, and like that felt really good. And then it kind of evolves into, but then when I wanted it to stop, I was afraid that if I said something, like, would he fire me? Would he get me fired? And like it becomes very complicated. And I enjoyed that because it wasn't just this like caricature of the Me Too movement. It was messy. It's messy, and
it's like reducing it to a story of victim and perpetrator versus like complex dynamics that we all play a part in. Yeah. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I like that approach in general to like I think Game of Thrones did this really well in some of the episodes, that they would have villains, but like you also sympathize with, like you understand it's just not black and white. There's a lot of gray. That makes it more interesting than like caricatures. So that's really good. Also SEE is the other one that I've gotten into. And that's like takes place thousands of years into the future, and everyone's been blind for like generations. And so sight is mythology. It's like the way we talk about like a third eye, or the way we talk about magic. And it's just clever because it makes you think like, oh shit, like maybe those things were real,
Right.
It is kind of Game of Thronesy. It's like, it's very violent. But the storytelling, it's beautiful and complicated. And my favorite aspect of it is there's this queen, and she's just like completely like literal queen, not like gay guy queen. And she's very eccentric. And in the first episode, this isn't a spoiler, but in the first episode, she goes, "Let me pray," and she like spreads her legs and starts fingering her pussy. This is like Apple TV,
Right.
fingering her pussy. She like licks her fingers and starts fingering herself.
Can you see it? Can you see your pussy?
No, you kind of see it from
Oh.
like the side.
I was like, oh my God. That's
Yeah.
like okay, so it's not like explicit, but
But
definitely very
it's
provocative. Yeah.
right. Like I couldn't have uploaded that to YouTube. Like my
Right.
channel would
Oh,
have been like
seriously.
deleted. Yeah. So, and she like licks her fingers after she finishes fingering herself. And that's her form of prayer. And she does this like, I want to fall, like while she's like fingering herself.
Mhm.
And we've talked about that like your sex is such a powerful energy force. And like a lot of the tantric instructors will talk about like sex as a prayer and sex
Mhm.
magic. Like,
Mhm.
I just can't believe that they did it, albeit with a villain.
Mhm.
It's just cool that it's even in there.
Totally. It's really tapping into something that I do feel like is, I don't know, like the word true is too strong, but like it's there. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think showing that to the masses, like we're going to talk in a couple minutes about Dr. Phil, like who can't even understand the concept of like mirrors during sex, like introducing to people the idea of sex magic and in a through a narrative like that is pretty cool.
Right.
So,
Dr. Phil.
yes. Also, I do want to mention that today's podcast is sponsored by adamandeve.com. Use discount code Himeros, Himeros, to save 50% off almost any one item and get free shipping in the US and Canada. Because the only thing sexier than sex toys is getting a bargain on sex toys. Finn, do you have a favorite sex toy?
Oh, well, I like it. I like the vibrating puppy tail.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like
That's
the puppy
your
mask.
favorite?
Yeah, I think so. Puppy gear.
Play, puppy gear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I'm really enjoying the various like masturbator sleeves.
Those are too rough for me.
You're very delicate. Your penis is just like a petal of a rose petal.
Sensitive.
I enjoy them because I'm retraining my dick to come from other means than my hand.
Yeah.
AdamandEve.com has a really great selection of sex toys and masturbator sleeves. 20% of the profit goes to fight the spread of HIV around the world, and they've been in business for over 45 years, now 24/7 customer service and a 90-day no hassle return. So go to adamandeve.com and use discount code Himeros during checkout. Also, you guys will notice that I'm not in Africa with Matt right now. We ended up not going. It fell through at the last minute. Definitely for the better. I have a lot of stuff to do this week because, well, we're planning for our project in France.
Yeah.
In like less than 2 weeks.
I know. It's hard to imagine that that's happening.
Yeah, like literally, we're going to be in France in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Filming gay sex in a castle.
Yes, we get to have on lots of clothes and layers as it's freezing.
It's going to be really cold. Yeah. We're also ordering some sort of industrial heater.
Nice.
The castle itself is heated through like the fireplaces. And there's some space heaters, but there's no central heating system because it's, a castle. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. Finn and I also get to hang out last weekend in San Francisco. Finn, what did we do?
Everything. Everything. Well, the impetus of the trip was to connect and do a audio pod about the healing work that we're doing, but like more personally with each other.
I love those audio pods.
I do too. A bonus pod. And it was great. We like talked about your life, and I held space for that. And yeah, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean,
we're in Airstream in Santa Rosa, which is rad. That was our version of camping.
Yeah, I was telling my friend John that I went to San Francisco, and he's like, "Oh, what'd you do?" And I was like, "Well, we went to Santa Rosa." And he was like, "Why would you go to San Francisco and then leave San Francisco to go to Santa Rosa, which is like, kind of the middle of nowhere?"
Right. Well,
but
getting out, yeah, for sure, it was really cool. And I think if we had stayed in San Francisco, we probably would have been a little bit more sidetracked, I would imagine.
Totally, we would have gone out to eat and walked around
like we did when we got back and shopped.
Yeah. Yeah, got some cute boots, cute ass boots.
Totally amazing boots.
Those are going to be probably in the next series that we film for Himeros.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make an appearance, so get excited for
and
those boots.
The audio will be out like end of November, yeah?
I think Monday, November 25th is the date we're shooting for right now, before Thanksgiving. We're going to be missing Thanksgiving because we'll be in the castle. Are you sad missing Thanksgiving? Do you care?
I'm not that attached to it, no.
Yeah.
I mean, how could I'm going to be in outside Paris. I don't know. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And as far as like being with loved ones, I feel like I make time as often as I can and want to for that. So no, I'm not all that torn up about it.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed because I don't see my family all that much, and they're in Rhode Island, but I'm going to see them for the full month of December, and so and also like obviously I enjoy the family aspect of it, but the actual Thanksgiving dinner I don't even really like. Does anyone enjoy like dry ass turkey and like
I don't like it. No, I don't know why people act like it's like their kryptonite. Like they can't. They're, oh my god, I had to. I'm like, it's. I think most of it's just kind of like, oh, I don't even like it.
Honestly, yeah. Like some of the desserts, even then, there's none that I'm like, ooh, I'm really into that. Like I like carrot cake and like chocolate cake. Like that shit's not Thanksgiving. You get
chocolate
like
chip cookies. No.
Yeah, you don't get that on Thanksgiving. You get like pumpkin pie.
Yeah, pecan
pies, like kind of good.
Pies. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the whole thing. Stuffing, I can do without all that shit.
Yeah. So don't feel bad for us. We'll be in France. Some housekeeping to catch up on. So this podcast goes up Friday, which is the same day that I'm uploading my newest YouTube video. It is the What's Up My Butt Challenge. It's been a while since we've seen one of those. This is holiday edition. This must be the fourth one I've done. In this holiday edition, Cade Maddox puts various things up my butt, and I need to guess if it's a sex toy or if it's a holiday decoration, such as, a Christmas tree, a manger,
a baby Jesus,
one of those inflatable snowmen that you put in your front yard.
You need to reenact. I told you to reenact the virgin birth,
except with my butt. Yeah, the performance piece.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen in the video.
Headlines.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert number one. It's more difficult than you'd imagine to differentiate between some of the sex toys and some of the Christmas decorations that were selected. Spoiler alert number two. I basically enjoyed everything that went in my butt. I was like, oh, this feels good. You're a slut when. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It felt really good.
And what was your favorite?
Okay, I don't mind. Well, obviously, the sex toys felt great, but what was a surprising hit for me was candy cane, like one of those thick candy canes.
The minty afterglow.
Yeah, like I'm also disgusting. So, like, of course, like as soon as it came out of my butt, I was like sucking on it, and and I had douched. It was fine. I love doing these videos because I feel like, first of all, that like I get that they're kind of silly and stupid, and people watch it for like the sensational aspect of it. But I honestly feel like treating like gay sex and sexuality, especially butt sex, like things involving our anuses, which are seen as so like dirty and gross and taboo and so stigmatized, like to treat it with laughter and joy and like really be unapologetic about it feels really fun for me. Like that's the space that I enjoy being in, like the intersection of gay sex and joy. And for me, that's what those videos feel like. I would do them every week, like if I could. So anyway, the point is, it's probably my YouTube channel by the time you're listening to this. Go check it out. Cade Maddox is in it. He is sexy, and every time I guess something right, he has to take off a piece of clothing. So the longer you watch, the more prolapsed I become, and the more naked he becomes. That's gross. I'm not prolapsed.
But so minty.
I'm very, very minty prolapsation. All right. Finn, we need to talk about the podcast that you sent me. Before we do, by the way, Matt says he's going to join us in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Let's see if that happens.
Yay.
It's always, I mean, it's always such a shit show when Matt joins because he never has his microphone hooked up correctly. I can't imagine that this is going to work.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Because we can't take like time to facilitate the
there's usually
the onboarding.
Yeah, there's usually a whole process. So so we'll see. And I'm sure he hasn't watched the video, so he's going to come on and then not know what's going on.
But his laughter is worth it all.
It's worth it all.
I love his laughter and I love him.
So we need to talk about the podcast that you sent me.
Yeah, with Justin Lee Miller.
It nearly killed me.
Yeah.
It's titled This is the first of all, this is the longest podcast title I've ever seen in my life. The podcast is titled Relationship Reality Check. How much fun are you to live with? Dr. Justin Lee Miller, leading human sexuality expert. So that's not a mouthful. It's a Dr. Phil podcast.
Yeah.
So first I want to check my baggage around Dr. Phil.
Right.
I have a visceral reaction to Dr. Phil because when I think of Dr. Phil, like rightly or wrongly, all I can think of are like those, you know, like the folksy like sayings and quotes that he has.
Mm-hmm.
No dog ever peed on a moving car. Or he says like,
right.
Like, I don't care how flat you can make a pancake. It always has two sides.
Right.
And they just make me, I just can't. So I had a trigger warning, you know, Finn sent the link and first of all, why did you send the podcast? What did you want to share?
Justin Lee Miller, like he just put out a book called Tell Me What You Really Want. And I really like him. He's on faculty at the school that I am studying with. And I just really appreciate him. And I always really appreciate gay sex therapists because there's a lot of literature out there that really, you know, is about heterosexual sexuality and relationships, which, well, there's a lot of it that relates to us as gay people because we've been steeped in the same environment. I just really appreciate gay therapists and hearing their perspective. So I've been following him lately, just kind of really appreciating him. And I want to get his book. I'm really interested in his book is a collection of people's fantasies. You know, he's like studied fantasies for quite a while and really explicitly detailing what people think about. So I think that's pretty cool.
It's a compilation, right, of like research and studies and it's a lot of data and statistics. He is great. And it was fun to like hear the facts and statistics that he presented. None of which come to mind. If you want the specific numbers and the statistics, you can go listen to it.
Yeah.
For me, the more entertaining takeaway was how uncomfortable Dr. Phil was in talking about sex.
Right.
And also like truly how relatively honest was. Like, I guess I just forget that not everyone talks about sex as much as we do. I'm 100% certain that they think about sex as much as we do. They just don't talk about it as much.
Yeah.
And like, as if Dr. Phil doesn't go home and like jerk off watching porn or something. Like, so I almost shit myself when Dr. Phil started talking about open relationships. And I mean, I don't know what he is, a therapist? Like, what does he consider himself?
I think he's an ex-therapist.
Okay.
I think I could be totally mistaken about that, but like, I think he was and not anymore.
Okay. Well, he said something to the effect of, I've never seen a healthy open marriage, like something to that effect.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, what? Like, what? Did he just say he's never seen a healthy open marriage? And he's like presumably at some point in his life working with, you know, hundreds of different people, couples, whatever.
Right.
And for him to like have that mindset was kind of like shocking that those words came out of his mouth. And so you mentioned Dr. Justin Lee Miller is gay. That feels important to me because my first thought was like, Dr. Phil has never been to Palm Springs or San Francisco or New York City. Like, or perhaps like Dr. Lee Miller is the first homosexual man that he's ever met. which I doubt, because
he's like, "Can I touch you? Are you real?
Are you real? I've heard of you homosexuals." Like, Dr. Phil lives in a $30 million Beverly Hills mansion. Like, I find it hard to believe that a homosexual was not involved in the decoration of such establishment. So I don't know many people that aren't in open relationships. And most of those open relationships are relatively healthy. Like, you and Sam have a degree of openness. Like, I had a degree of openness with Chad. Most of the people I know in Palm Springs, like, that's the case. I actually think a majority of the gay couples in Palm Springs have some degree of openness. And I was really impressed and respected Dr. Lee Miller's patience, because I would have been like, "Queen, what?" Like, I would have been like so taken aback. And he was so patient in explaining all of this to Dr. Phil. And he talked about how a lot of people open their relationships up as a way to save their relationships, and that tends not to work, but that healthy open relationships are built on like a strong foundation of communication and understanding and so on. I mean, he like really had to spell out polyamory or like non-monogamy 101 to Dr. Phil. And he was like, "Well, I'll be a son of a gun." Like, he was just so like taken aback by it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? So,
well, I think, you know why I think that, I mean, I don't know if this is just my opinion, but I think, you know, the frames, for instance, our society, the frame around sex period for most people is that it's like just elementarily like ingrained in us that it is something to be ruled over. It's dirty. It's something we shouldn't be talking about, right? So, and I think, you know, there's pluses and minuses on either side. I don't really think it's like, oh, heterosexual people have it better, gay people have it better. It's just like, there's like, you know, heterosexual people have enjoyed a large degree of like belonging and acceptance in society, but they also have struggled a lot, I think, as a whole, to bring desire out. And gay people actually are like, "Oh, you're not going to take that away from me. I fought for this," and bring like this openness about desire, you know, but then they struggle for a lack of belonging. So I think Dr. Phil, like, he's representing like a sector of the way people think when they really are that baffled by the concept, because I think it's just, you know, they don't know how to get to it. Maybe, I don't know. I'm theorizing here. I don't want to sound like I know everything, but it, you know, it is kind of buried in the general public's ability to talk about it. I mean, even the guys that I work with, even gay guys, like, they don't talk about their desires with their partners and boyfriends. Some of them married for years.
Well,
They're so scared.
Dr. Phil, like, I get that the general population doesn't talk about these things, but Dr. Phil, by virtue of the position he's in, like, should know a thing or two about like non-monogamy. I think you're also right, though, that you bring up a really good point about gay guys. Like, we fought for this. Like, there's this book called Gay Men and the New Way Forward, by Ray Goglioso. I think that's how you say his last name. Who I've spent some time with in Provincetown. I actually did a YouTube video with some of the guys that are involved in his group, the Gay Men of Wisdom, I think it's called. I'm sure I've mentioned this before in the podcast, but if you haven't read the book, you should get it. It's about the 14 gifts that gay men embody. And one of those gifts is sexual leadership. And all I could think during this podcast was, this is a perfect example of a gay man demonstrating sexual leadership. He's talking about open relationships. He's talking about kinks. He said that, you know, we need to talk about what turns us on, and otherwise, you know, we'll get burdened by shame. And Dr. Phil was just like absolutely beside himself. He at one point he was like, "What about mirrors? Do mirrors turn people on? Are people into mirrors?" And like mirrors on the wall, like when you're having sex. And he's like, "I can't even have a shiny marble bathroom floor." And I was like, it's as though he's talking to like a rich 14-year-old kid that like had no like basic understanding of sex. So
like,
anyway,
he also can't
it's really
tolerate the look of his own body, you know, like he can't look at himself, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, one of the foundational tantric practices is a self-practice in the mirror. You know, to really know yourself.
Further along in that path.
I know. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe he was just being like goofy. Maybe he's like super kinky at home. Who knows? Like, his public persona, like, you know, his viewers and like who he's really playing to in that interview. He could be a total like I don't know, polygamist.
That's a good
and
point.
We don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah. Maybe he was trying to play the role of his audience to make it more relatable because like they would have had that perspective. I don't know.
He has like total like eyes wide shut parties at his house and like
At his $30 million Beverly Hills mansion.
Yeah.
So,
you know what I really appreciated what Justin brought out in that one about the discussion on open relationships, and I talk about this a lot. Actually, I feel like this is the majority of what I talk about with the people that I work with, is from like an attachment perspective. So like depending on the reasons for which one is wanting to have sex, that is like the entire baseline of like what kind of relationship would work for somebody. So if someone really wants a lot of external, if they're having sex for expression in an external kind of way and wanting like that, that's what they're doing it for, not to be close with somebody, then it would be better. Maybe they might thrive more in an open relationship. And it's like it's an orientation versus someone who is like, reason for having sex is to get closer with somebody, then that person thrives more in a contained environment. So, and then there's grades all along the way in between those two poles. And I really appreciate that because it's more about attachment and like our own needs and intimacy, not just sex.
Well, I also think that there's a place where he mentioned this in the podcast that like he was like, well, Dr. Phil, like some people separate emotion from sex. They can have sex without being emotionally connected or attached to it. I feel like I'm moving into a space where I want more of that emotional connection, but still don't want like monogamy. That like I think there's people who want to experience that closeness with multiple people to, like there's like a polyamory situation.
Totally. And, like when we talk sexual, for one thing, this is just now coming into our public consciousness in such a great way because, I mean, the language isn't really there. It's either like open or monogamous, but that's not really a reflective like model. Like it's a scale, like the Kinsey scale, gayness.
Right.
It's the relationship orientation. And some people kind of have a large gray zone and they can really be happy in lots of different kinds of relationships. And some people are more on the poles and the extremes, and and couples navigate that in all kinds of ways. So
yeah, it's a great discussion. You guys should check out the podcast. You may cringe at times,
but Justin Miller is cool.
He is cool. Something I wanted to talk to you about. I know that a lot of the people listening are members of Himeros.tv, and I always feel like it's important for you guys to know how your porn is made. So something that Finn and I and some of the other instructors have been working on are some kind of ethical guidelines for our work and really committing that to writing. And the idea is that I can like print this out, bring it to the shoots, make sure everyone's on the same page. And one of the things that's in it, there's these 7, we call them like, it's like the porn star Bill of Rights. It's like 7 rights that we recognize for our models. And I'm not going to spend much time in this, but for the sake of you guys knowing what goes into the content that we create, I think it's important to at least touch on this. So the seven rights are consent. All the models have the right to say no to anything at any time. The second is boundaries, that the models have the opportunity to express what they're comfortable with and have those boundaries respected, but also knowing that those boundaries can evolve over time. And even during the course of a shoot, something that they might say yes to at the beginning, it can change. And obviously it's related to consent, but it's something that we check in on with folks. Fair pay and compensation, that the performers are paid a fair and livable wage in recognition for their contributions, and that they get pay negotiated in writing prior to any shoot, and that they're paid at the shoot, which is not always the case for. We also compensate the models with accommodations and abundance of good food that is based on their dietary restrictions. The fourth is drug-free environments, that all the Himeros TV sets are alcohol and drug-free to ensure a consensual, safe, and focused environment for the models. The shoots are collaborative. We welcome input and collaboration from models to enhance and evolve the creation of content. Respect. Himeros.tv does not fetishize models' ages, shapes, ethnicities, sizes, or colors. And lastly, mental health support. After filming with Himeros.tv, all models have the option of receiving 5 counseling sessions with a professional such as Finn Dearhart at no cost to the models. Something that Finn and I have put together as a program for aftercare for the models. And there's also a set of guidelines for how the crew and the instructors interact with the models that basically outlines, that there's like no sexual contact between the crew and the instructors and the models. There's no flirting. There's a dating moratorium of 3 months if a connection does kind of spark up. That's awesome, but you have to wait 3 months before that is explored. And all these things we're kind of learning from experience. Like 2 years ago, and we've made mistakes. Like 2 years ago, I was in a Himeros.tv video that's on the site where it was like a foot fetish video. And now I recognize that it's inappropriate for me to be in a video that I'm also producing, even if the model and I have an existing connection, which we did. But there's a power dynamic that makes it complicated. Just like what I mentioned in the morning show, that like, say things do change for the model and maybe he doesn't want to lick my feet, but feels like he needs to say yes to it because like I'm signing the check.
Right.
So this is a working document, but it's nice to have it in writing so we can all be on the same page. And Finn, thank you for your help in working on it.
Yeah, I'm really stoked that that you're putting this in place, because I think it's really important. Especially around the work that we're asking them to do.
Yeah, I think it's important, and it's important for the models to see it. It's important for the audiences. I think just so that everyone knows what goes into this content, especially when you see a video like the one that we're going to talk about today, which is like, man, it's an intense fucking video.
I know, I love it.
It's so intense. Oh my God.
I did not know what to expect. Are we going there now?
Well, you did send me an article. We need to talk about how Grindr is affecting gay men's health. That's the name of the title.
Yeah.
I think this was on Vox. It was a Vox article. So the synopsis basically is how Grindr is affecting gay men's health. It's not good. The synopsis is not good. What did you get from it?
I mean, I think, let me just generalize. I think that most of these articles that we've seen lately in the same vein are saying like people have issues with loneliness and disconnection, and they aren't really able to get their needs met. And so then they're also using apps. And so that furthers the issue, and because it creates like this problem that it's like an illusion, right? Like I have like 15 people chatting with me. So I have this like feeling of like, oh, people are talking to me, but there's really not an attunement happening, because in connection, we need attunement, which is like sitting next to somebody, feeling their energy being gotten, like.
Right.
So.
And are you saying that having superficial conversations and sending dick pics with those 15 guys is not going to fulfill that?
Yeah, I'm saying like that.
Okay.
We call it like a tunneling effect of like all the parts of ourselves that need to be met. So, but what I think where these articles are leaving off that I think is important to address is not to say, okay, I don't think it's technology's fault. I think we need to evolve around the technology. So
right.
I put boundaries on your phone. Like I turn my phone off at 8 every night, and on the weekends sometimes I turn it off on Saturday, like all day. Make time intentionally to get into a headspace that used to just happen naturally when you're a kid. You just kind of like, summertime's here, we're not in school, we have nothing to do, we have to do that manually. And then if you're going to date using the apps, meet somebody for something really fun and like, oh, Matthew's here.
Hey guys.
Yay.
Girl, welcome.
We're talking about dick pics on apps.
Oh, shoot. Give me a second. I'm just trying to get connected.
And you still better switch your microphone, because it still says built-in microphone in Zencaster.
It sure does. It sure does. I can't change it until I join. But back to dick. I'll come in a second, but it's actually not showing again.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, so something in this article, Finn, that Matt, we're just talking about the article that Finn sent about how Grindr is affecting gay men's health. One thing that I thought was really interesting, I love that it kind of got into the weeds in certain aspects of it. I like the details. And they talked about this thing called the variable ratio reinforcement, which basically says that rewarding people at like uncertain intervals, uneven intervals, is one of the most effective ways to get someone addicted. Totally. So like if you don't know if you're gonna get rewarded in 10 minutes or 10 hours, like that's a great way to keep someone at it. This is what they do with like slot machines. This is why people get addicted. And with Grindr, the payoff of having sex with someone could happen after 10 minutes, or you could go days without meeting someone.
Right.
And because you don't know when you're going to get that next hit, you just keep with it.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting. And they also put together a chart which had the apps that are most correlated with people's happiness, and then the ones that are correlated with unhappiness. Grindr was, according to this article, the app most highly correlated with unhappiness. 77% of users said they were unhappy.
I still think we can't blame the apps. I think that it's and let me, people want community, they want connection, but I don't think that they're often really willing to say, it is my responsibility to engage with my own pain and my own loneliness and find some way, like that's a tough job. And like at the Lavender Spirit thing the other night, this came up, like apps and men, complaining about the gay community in this way and all the apps. And it's just like, well, when's the last time you put your phone down and went for a walk or called a friend and had lunch with people, kind of like we talk about, really creating a culture of connection again, and just calling the apps what they are. It's like, oh, I can go get transactional sex if I want to, but paying attention to what you're feeling. And I don't think that that's these articles make it like that it's Grindr's fault. And I do get that, the hit that you're getting from the, but if you didn't have a pre-existing condition of loneliness to engage with, that wouldn't even be satisfying. You'd be like, I just want to fucking put this down and go do something exciting. Right. I mean,
there's also no point in trying to resist it, because Grindr is going to be there. And so we need to figure out how to manage our use of it.
Yeah. Just evolve our ways of engaging. Go ahead, Matt.
I was saying, what about the flip side though? What about being in a relationship and knowing that you always are going to get it and you don't have to wait for that moment to be stimulated? When is it going to happen when you're excited? But you're always going to get it in a relationship and it gets stale for that reason.
You cannot expect that it's always going to come to you in a relationship.
I know, but it happens. I mean, I feel like I myself and the other people I know, we've fallen into that of oh, well, I know that maybe I floated with the idea at times in my life of having an open relationship as much as I truly believe in monogamy, because it's it's not exciting and I need something that is going to stimulate me.
Okay. Well, then you should use the variable ratio reinforcement, and sometimes you have sex every 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes later pop up, and then go 3 days without doing it, and he'll get addicted to your.
Yeah. Well, you know what the funny thing is too, and I hear this a lot. People that are the board partner is also the one that's like putting the brakes on and not initiating or not trying new things. And the other partner that's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go to this workshop. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then like, you know, but then the partner is like, oh, I need novelty, but he's really not willing or interested in engaging with his own inhibitions and like coming up with something new and playing with the new parts of self. So it's just like an easy answer to be like, well, let's go fuck someone else, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
So
it's work.
Here's a quote from the article. The users I interviewed told me that when they closed their phones and reflected on the shallow conversations and sexually explicit pictures they sent, they felt more depressed, more anxious, and even more isolated. So it's like,
Garbage.
man, if that doesn't like wrap up my like Grindr experience into a paragraph, and I'm convinced, Finn, that you're right, that people crave connection, and Grindr presents a promise ends up oftentimes being empty. It's like, look at all these men, look at all these guys, and yet like the deeper you dive into it, the more distant it all kind of becomes. Actually, let's talk about this week's videos.
You have that settling moment though. You're like, I've been at this forever. I either put it away or I settle. So like, I mean, that's kind of the mentality around it, right? You're like, oh fuck, this will do, or no, I didn't. You know, it's just a headspace.
But doesn't it, yeah, I mean, a headspace, but also doesn't it come down to how you're using it? Because I feel like you can use the apps and whether you put it in your profile or you lead with what you want with who you're talking to, to say like, well, I do want a sense of connection. Like, and here's the ways that I know that I can get to know you better or make me feel more comfortable to the point where, yeah, like I am horny, I want to have sex, but I want it to actually mean something. It doesn't mean that we're going to be boyfriends and be together, but even for a night, like this is what's important to me. Like Dave, I think I don't know if I talked about it on the podcast, but if like when I decide to like put myself back out there and like be sexual again, like a fantasy of mine is to play that boyfriend relationship idea out with the person that I just met, even if we're just together for one night, but just having like a feeling of something that is a little bit more intimate. But we understand, hey, like when it's over, whether we stay and we cuddle or you leave, like the intention is to act like we're connected during that time.
And you can communicate that, but you also need to consciously use Grindr in that way. Like it's not about leaving the app open for 12 hours when you're feeling lonely or disconnected. It's kind of opening the app from a position of like empowerment and like, okay, I am going to find that guy and like, you know, we've talked about this, and Finn, I think we talked about it on the podcast that we recorded. It's like when you're reaching for that slice of pie, is it because you're hungry? Right. Are you reaching for that slice of pie because you want to feel something? Is it because like it's just being mindful about your use of Grindr?
But do you think that's how like most people are?
No, of course not.
No, it's like I'm leaving it open and I'm walking away. I feel like if you're on it for like a little bit. You're talking, you're not getting anywhere. You're frustrated. It's like I can't find someone to connect to. Whatever. Okay, back to doing something else. Like a lot.
But that's not mindfully using it. Like what I'm saying is like that's just a different form. Like whether you have it open for 10 hours straight or you're checking it here or there. Like if you want to hook up with someone and that's your intention, open it up, hook up with someone, invite them over, close it. If you want to connect with someone at a deeper level, use it in that capacity when you want to, but not from a position of loneliness. If you're lonely and unhappy and you open Grindr, I think it's only going to further enhance those negative feelings. I think it's just going to amplify your experience.
I agree with that.
We really need to talk about the videos.
Sorry,
I know we could talk about Grindr forever. This week, there's actually 3 videos that that went up. So November is the 2-year anniversary of Himeros.tv. So all month we're uploading amateur videos each Thursday. These are in addition to the professionally filmed videos on Monday. These videos are called Himeros.tv Amateurs, and they feature some of your favorite models and personalities. In each video, the models recreate their favorite Himeros.tv video with their own twist. So last Thursday, it was Jeremy Feist demonstrating The Witness with one of his friends, Zach. And this week, it's Ray Dexter and Diggory recreating, his name is Diggory. It's like Cher, it's just one name, just Diggory. Recreating the masturbation stroke techniques. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see Ray and Diggory's video, but did you guys see that?
I did.
Okay. It is the 2 largest intact penises I have ever seen in my life. Like I'm still in shock.
That's probably one of my biggest takeaways from seeing it too. No pun intended.
This is impressive. If you like foreskin and intact penises, which I do, then you'll definitely want to see this video. We actually don't have previews of the Himeros.tv amateurs on the site. You just need to join to see that content. Is there anything that you guys want to say about the amateur videos before we dive into this week's video?
Finn?
Okay.
I just want to see, like, I liked Jeremy's video because he's so, what's the word? He's expressive, you know? So the jack off videos, I'm like, yeah, big dicks. I really want to see, like, it's not, you know, like the man, like, expressing something through, you know, I loved, like, that's why I love that one we did in Palm Springs, the Around the Fire, because it's like all this, like,
right.
intense individual expression. I really cherish that. So it was hard for me to watch the whole like jack off video. I was like, all right, come on.
Yeah.
You know, like I found myself like, yeah, all right.
They weren't what they were trying to do was to demonstrate the different masturbation stroke techniques. So like that was like, okay, here's different ways you can do it. Yeah, and I mean this it also shows kind of the difference of having someone film a video on their own versus like creating this whole space and this environment and having tantric sex coaches available and professional filmmakers. It's kind of a fun experiment, and I think some of the videos, I mean, they're interesting for different reasons. And
I love that you're doing it. Actually, I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So there'll be 2 more throughout this month, and Andrew Gurza did one, and then Wyndham Gold did one with his boyfriend, which is in a bathroom stall, which is going to be really fun to watch.
Fun.
All right, so the main video this week, the professional film video this week, is called Power Exchange, and it features Wesley Woods and Wyndham Gold. You guys can catch a free preview of it at himeros.tv. Girl, this video is intense.
I love it.
It's really intense. So there's a quote in the video I didn't write down, but it's something about Tantra not just being about like candles and like sunshine and eye gazing and slow touch.
Did Jason write that?
He did write it.
Or Inya.
Yeah. Tantra is about the totality of things. And this video is an opportunity to explore, well, I guess like some of the nastier fringes of sex, like the rough sex, the slapping, the taking, the ordering, the dominating. The sex is very aggressive. I think Wesley did a phenomenal job with it. Like that is a big role to step into. My first question for you guys is, have you ever had sex like this?
No.
have you, Finn?
I have.
Wow. Were you the dominating one or the submissive one?
The submissive one.
What did it feel like for you?
Like it was accessing a part of me that really needs to be expressed.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Like, I mean, there's a definite headspace on both sides of the extreme. I think I've mentioned this. Like, I can relate to both sides, their polarity. You know, like, I don't think we can understand the deep sub in ourselves if we can't understand the dom in ourselves either. I don't think people are so split. I think we have ways of being strong in some areas and really like edgy in others. You know, so for me, like, it was hot and I needed to do it. At this point in my life, like I really want to be more in like Wesley's position of that, but it's just like takes, you know, practice of just like really believing in yourself. I think he really held that space down in a way that I don't think that I don't know that I could fully.
Yeah, he was like, it was,
to be honest.
we were like, here's what the video is. You know, we went through like a workshop and then he just kind of stepped up and I once had a guy spit in my face during sex in a way that wasn't, I've done a lot of like mouth spitting, which I enjoy, but this was like a spit on my face. It was like we had not discussed it. It was not a negotiated, like he just spit on my face.
Yeah. Not cool.
I can't remember whether or not, I mean, because that can go either way. Like that's something you talk about with people before you do it. And I can't remember if I was turned on by it or if I was horrified. I do remember it being like cold and wet after it like hit my face versus like if someone spits in your mouth, it's kind of contained.
Yeah.
It's on your face. You're kind of just like, oh, like
Matthew's face.
You can keep them both. No.
Yeah.
No.
I know if somebody, I mean, I've had someone do that to me too. And it was just like, it like demystified everything. I was like, okay, I'm done now. Like I was over it. But the problem is I stuck it out and stayed in it until it was done.
Yeah, I do enjoy spit during sex. I think rough sex in general, if I'm receiving it, I'm not super into it. For me, it's kind of like, it was hot for me to watch this. Like it was fun to watch. But if I think of myself like being fucked in a way that's very rough, as soon as a guy says to me that he's like on Grindr, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pound your ass."
Right.
I'm just like, please don't. Like, I would rather slowly and tenderly, gently, you know, like pounding me just makes me very tense and tight. And Like it doesn't feel good for me. I don't know. Are you guys turned on by rough sex? Let's stop. Let's hear. Are you guys turned on by it?
I think there's a time and place for all of it. Like even watching the video, have I had like one sexual encounter that incorporates most of the things that happen here? No. Bits and pieces of little things here and there, yes. I don't think that I would want a sexual exchange that just fully embraces what this video is. I think that parts of it, yeah, I'd be into it. I think Finn makes a really good point where it's like, you know, you have to understand the importance of the submission piece and experience that along with the dom piece. I think to really be able to get into both roles and to just understand what that person could be experiencing. No different than really, I think being versatile, you know, playing that top and bottom role. I think it's important to know both, but there's a time and place for rough sex, just not, I don't know, like, does that, I mean, you like you said, like, it doesn't feel that great for you. You don't want someone just to like pound you. Do you want to be pounded?
Some people do.
They do. And I have to say, this is why I think it's so important that we talk about emotions and sex again, because it's not just like, oh, tender emotions. I mean, it doesn't, you can't selectively meet your experience. So if you've been your whole life having sex without feeling any of your feelings, that means you really can't contact any of your feelings. So to have sex for roughness, just for the sake of roughness, I don't know that for me, there's value in that. But if there's like, I'm angry and I want to have sex from that place and express it, then that has a value. And then I have done that and it feels amazing. It's
That's a much better way to put it.
I see anger and it like brings it out and you embody it, you know. So I've some of the best conflict resolution me and my partner have been like in a fight and then, you know, we like wrestle and then it turns into sex and then it's just like anger and force and like roughness, but like it's a way to like access it in like a caring way too and not just like calling each other names, you know, instead. Like it.
Well, it's funny because it's funny you say that because in those moments with like the wrestling leading to sex, like it is more aggressive, but I don't know, like even watching this video, it didn't feel like that. It still felt different to me. I don't know.
I mean, I identify with the aggressor in this one. I want to be able to contact more of that energy in me that Wesley was holding and like be able to be that like dominant and assertive and like, but it's a little bit of a struggle for me. Like, it's still like, oh God, is this okay?
It also takes like improv skills, you know, like you have to, he put on a performance, you know, like the things he was saying. And there's a plot twist that I love that we haven't talked about, which is Wesley's bossing Wyndham around and ordering him to like do this and that, and he's got this like big dick energy. So anyone watching is gonna think that Wesley is just gonna fuck the living shit out of Wyndham. Like you're just waiting for him just to bend Wyndham over, and Wyndham's being so subby. But instead, Wesley, he's like, "Who is this? Is this my dick? Do I own this dick?" And he makes Wyndham fuck him. So I'm like stumbling over my words because I'm so excited. Wesley is the bottom. He's the dominant bottom. And we like in general, I think kind of equate bottoming with the feminine role. And I don't know, I guess we don't think about femininity in terms of like domination, or we think of softness, gentle, nurturing, whatever. It's all stereotypes. But of course you can be a dominant bottom. It's just like surprising to see it. As soon as Wesley like bent over and just like slammed his ass like into the dick, you're just like, whoa, okay, like I didn't expect that.
I didn't expect it either.
How did we feel when that happened?
I felt, you know what I felt? I was like, oh.
Oh, really? See, I felt like I wish I could find that.
Really?
Yeah, I did feel like I wish I could find that.
Oh, because that's kind of in your comfort zone, right? Because like you want to be bossed around, but you don't want to bottom, right? Yeah. So it's like it could be, this is a way to like have that experience and still top.
Yeah, and maybe it leads to that where, you know, maybe I'll end up bottoming, but I have wanted like in a very like aggressive bottom.
Yeah. And Finn, you wanted to see Wesley like pound Wyndham?
I did, yes. I love it. You know, made him get down and lick his cum off the floor. I was like, yes.
Which he did. That did happen. I had to clean the floor. I was the one that cleaned the floor before and after. because that was a planned moment that the come meeting was going to happen. So obviously we had to make sure there were no debris.
There's I was gonna say really quickly, there's a really awesome book about the intersection of like force and power and our emotions. It's called Radical Ecstasy by Dossie Easton, the author of The Ethical Slut. And it's such a good book because it really helps understand like why do we do this and why do we need to be able to like access force and permission in our sex like that. Yeah.
So is there anything that you think you guys can apply to your life from this video?
Well, I definitely want to practice it more. Like I've raised this with my boyfriend saying like, you know what, let's just name the fact that we feel awkward and let's just spend 20 minutes, role playing in this way and see how high we can drive the energy. Because I think like if you just do it spontaneously, sometimes it's like, oh God, like I said, for me, it's like, can I say that? Or, I want to say this. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm like kind of holding back. And I just want to practice it more. I definitely loved this video. So.
Yeah, I want to be able to be more verbal in the sex that I have. And I think Wesley did a very like, it never felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
Like it came from like he stepped into the role, but I think it came from a place of authenticity in him. Like he found that Dom in him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I haven't been able to really find in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's important just to experiment and try different things, put yourself out there, especially if you're with someone that you feel comfortable with. Like, why not? Why let yourself why let that fear and that anxiety take over? Just go with it.
So you guys can check out a free preview of this video on himeros.tv. Also, this is a reminder to get your tickets to the himeros.tv virtual retreat in January. It's $99, but you can save $10 with discount code POD, P-O-D. We're also offering an in-person retreat in October in upstate New York. Those tickets are selling now. Everyone who's attending is going to be coming in from across the country and around the world to be a part of it. There's only 50 spots. So I know it's a year away, but if you want to make sure that you get one, you should reserve your spot soon. All of that is available at himeros.tv/events. And of course, we would love to see you. You guys fucking talk so much about Grindr that we came up on the hour and haven't answered any audience questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have time for one?
Do you have time for one, Finn?
Yeah, let's do one.
Okay.
Let's do a good one.
Well, shit. Okay. All right. How about this question? It's the second one on the list. Why is ghosting becoming so prevalent?
So here we're back on Grindr again.
this was a question that was sent in by Facebook. Yeah, it's about Grindr, and there's different aspects to it. Like I recently got ghosted by a guy that I had I had hung out with like twice in life, and then he just like completely disappeared and like never. I reached out a couple times over text, and it's like like I don't know. Anyway, but you're right, most of it does happen digitally. So why do we think ghosting is so prevalent?
It's because there's a book, Modern Romance, talks a lot about this. Because we're losing skills around social connection, and we talk, like we don't have to look at somebody in the face and see their disappointment. A long time ago, like it just wasn't that way, and there's more social accountability, and there's just less, and you're in a headspace of like entitlement too a lot, I think, and so people are swiping and go, whatever, I won't answer that person back. And it's just acceptable on some level just to delete a text and not ever answer it. But it's demonstrating a lack of like awareness and connection.
Yeah, it seems like, at least digitally, like when it happens in a virtual situation, it's the same thing to me as like the super nasty comments that people can leave on YouTube or Facebook, that like we don't think of the person that's behind the interaction. So like if you're not thinking of them as a person, it's easy to just stand someone up, to just like disappear on them, because you really didn't have much skin in the game and you don't think of them as a person. And I also think on Grindr a lot of times people are just on there jerking off and they're horny, and then once they come they're no longer motivated in the same way, so they just get thoughts about meeting up and kind of disappear.
Yeah, I've been trying to push myself to just, like, if I'm going to bail on something, like, not just text about it, even just call the person and be like, hey, listen, I know we talked about this, but I've changed my mind. And it's really uncomfortable, but I'm making myself do that instead of sending a text to cancel, or, just trying to up level my own communication in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that does help. I love those little voice memos. Any thoughts, Matt?
I mean, my point of view is a little bit different. I don't think that ghosting is okay.
Keep it to yourself.
I know.
Keep it to yourself.
No, I don't think ghosting is okay, and it's happened to me many times. But I also feel like no response is a response, and if somebody is choosing to not communicate with me, and it's not going the way that I thought it was, well, thank you for freeing up my future to find what I really want, whether that's something for the moment or that's something long term. Like, I can't put my energy into somebody that does not want to communicate with me. And I honestly feel like focusing on that and harping on that is a waste of my time when I could be focused on what is important to me.
Mm-hmm. Like, and I was gonna say, I really appreciate that you said that, because like in that instance that I mentioned of the guy that I've like spent some time with that disappeared, like in following up with him, like, well, what's the point? Like like there's plenty of people in my life that have made themselves available to me and that want to build something. So why am I chasing this person that clearly doesn't?
Yeah. And like, I think it's an opportunity for all of us that when it happens, like, let's sit back and think about what was the situation? What did we communicate to each other? Where were we really at in all of this? And don't get me wrong, like, there are people out there where you'll talk to them, they talk a very good game. Oh, I'm looking for this. I want this. And you think you've got that going, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And that's a little bit of a mind fuck. Mm-hmm. But, at the same time, like, no matter how you slice it, they were not meant for you.
And ultimately, the only thing that we can control is how we interact with other people. So exactly. if we don't like ghosting, then let's make sure that when we feel uninterested in someone, that
we don't do that for them.
Yeah, and if our feelings change, and then we can just let them know. Yeah, that's good.
The only opportunity we have to change the culture is to change ourselves, and hopefully that spills over.
I agree.
Well, Gandhi said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." And Grindr.
And on that note, boom, just drop the
mic. All right, so next week we're going to be discussing Bound to be Nurtured. Really enjoy this one. It is, I think it's our first internal cream pie video. Where can people find more of you, Finn?
FinnDeerhart.com, FINNDEERHART.com.
Remember to visit Himeros.tv/pod to save 20% off your Himeros.tv membership. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, more to come.